Here we go. Good morning again, Wednesday, March 12th. We're going to spend some time with Carolyn Sherman Gordon, a legislative director for rural Vermont, an act relating to miscellaneous ag subjects. Good morning. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me in this morning. Yeah, this miscellaneous ag bill is really something we've been hoping for. Not sure if you got a chance to see what's happening in the House side in terms of that bill that was proposed by Conservation Law Foundation and Vermont Natural Resources Council to literally move the entire required agricultural practices rule from Agency of Agriculture to Agency of Natural Resources to mitigate, I think, what is a really important issue, and that is Agency of Natural Resources needs to do their job when it comes to CAFO permitting. But really my message is on behalf of our members is that A&R starting to do their job should not be on the backs of farmers who need the support system of their agency that's literally there to represent them. And, you know, we have that in this building too, right? This bill that is moving in the House is under the jurisdiction of House Environment Committee. Rural Vermont is scheduled to do even an introduction to that committee. Since the beginning of the session, we never have airtime in that committee. Agriculture is already underrepresented in many policy discourses, and that can obviously also shake out in this building. It's really important to have your committee and the House Ag Committee to uplift farmer voices. And when things in their jurisdiction get moved from agriculture to natural resources, that historic underrepresentation is just going to be worsened. And so we have really, we would have tremendous concerns if that bill were to move any further, that we're on the best way to, you know, get rid of Agency for Agriculture or like representation of agriculture and how we use our critical resources and all that, and supporting farms and being better land stewards as well. And so what that bill was suggesting, we're excited that the agencies themselves are actually not in support of that. We're excited there's now 2 other bills that would do it differently, that would do it in how the agencies are envisioning to do it. We have faith that the right thing will come out of that, and we really want to underscore that there's also advocates who are really not in support of what's happening in the House right now. And
Are you familiar with the S-100 bill?
well, I can't say that I'm really familiar with that. It's also still so brand new, but just from even on the surface, it seems like that's something we could much rather live with. That's what we much rather want to see move than what's happening in the House.
So what I think the committee, in fairness to all the committee and kind of speaking for them, when we were looking at our miscellaneous part of it, which I think we were in favor of, but then we looked at the language in S-100, which actually talked more about the A&R side of it. Yeah. We're going to try to get language. We had Secretary Julie Moore in yesterday. We're going to try to get language so that on the miscellaneous bill that we can kind of finish our process. I think that just to pass our part of it really wasn't, it was just the ag side of it, which is very important. But if we could tie them both together, yeah, and make it one bill in a miscellaneous process, then we would do that.
Yeah, I think that's all great. I think we will clearly support that, you know, approach it from this administrative oversight thing, but not really revamp how agriculture is regulated in its entirety at this point. You know, I think what I want to say is, like, if that bill in the House ever gets traction and would move over here, that something like removing the required agricultural practice rule from Agency of Agriculture would be such a radical move that it would have to have thorough due diligence consideration with lots of farmer engagement. That doesn't seem to be happening, so that bill should not have any prospects of moving anywhere. Clarifying the missing administrative oversight from A&R, which they have the jurisdiction to do all along, which everybody supports them doing. I think that can be hashed out without the tremendous farmer engagement that, you know, everybody already thought for a long time that they would have that oversight anyhow. That's like indeed a miscellaneous subject. In my view, that is something we can support.
Well, I think we're on the same page with all of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Caroline, I'm not aware of what has gone on in the House. I try to stay in touch with everything, but sometimes you can't always do everything. The bill that we have in terms of the miscellaneous piece, A&R only is going to sort of become the lead enforcer if there's a CAFO permit involved. So ag is still going to be very much in the picture there. The existing MOU, I think, is just going to go away, unfortunately, in my view, because I think the two agencies do cooperate quite a bit together, and I think farmers benefit in some ways from that cooperation. So I didn't realize on the other side, the House side, that it is more of a clear differentiation of authority, that A&R is going to pretty much drive the bus for everything.
That's what the House proposal includes, that all of water quality oversight would go in its entirety to A&R, including the rule, which is the required agricultural
Yeah.
practices rule. And my concern with that would be, that rule defines what even is farming. A&R doesn't have the representation to define what's farming.
Yeah.
And why I'm saying this also already here is because those lobbyists that introduced basically that bill in the House, well, they are testifying on S100 next door today. So I'm not sure what they're going to say, but there's not just one lobbyist that's a full-time, full-blown lawyer, attorney, lobbyist that's talking to a Senate Natural Resources, that's how's that farmer let part-time employment have only so many means to speak up against what's happening. Just want to raise the awareness that there might be forces at play to create a bigger shift in how agriculture is dealt with right now than what's needed. Also, that's not what the EPA has directed Vermont to do.
And from what we've seen, at least from like Julie Moore, is they don't want any more than just this cable.
Right.
So I don't.
Exactly.
So you have other lobbyists that are trying to push for more.
So I think that we are on the same page as the agencies are, but there's lobbyists who want much more.
As always. Okay.
Good to know.
Well, I don't think you have a fight in this committee. I mean, we have some fight in us, but not, certainly
Now with you.
not with you. So,
Well, that's why I'm basically just coming in to pat your back on this and saying like your voice is important. Make sure that that's being heard in Senate Natural Resources.
we had a discussion off of line just barely, and, you coming in here reaffirms what we had discussed, that your voice is important. And, so, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. I think we're all